Hi everyone, I'm Shishir Mehrotra. I'm one of the founders of Coda, and welcome to the next episode of Make Me a Doc. This is the series where we meet an interesting person, hear about their interesting idea and philosophy, and turn it into a wonderful Coda doc. Today, I'm really excited to have with me Claire Hughes Johnson. She and I have been friends for years, back from when we worked together at Google. She's currently the Chief Operating Officer at Stripe. And before that, did just about everything at Google and all sorts of different divisions, from sales to operations to commerce to self-driving cars to, the big ones, right?
Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But welcome.
Thank you.
We had a lot of different options for things to work with you on, and we brainstormed a few.
Yep.
And then you told me, actually, if you want to make me a doc with Claire, it's got to be about this topic, about offsites. Why offsites?
Yeah, I think that if you've ever worked with me at any point, like in one of my teams, you would probably remember that my offsites are my thing.
Okay.
So if you're like, what is Claire's thing? And then I don't know, I think the reason why is because if you're going to build a high-performing team, you have to invest in them.
Right.
And the way you invest in them, in my opinion, is you take them out of their day-to-day, you make sure they actually form as a team, which is some get to know you, understand each other's work styles, but you also do work together. You make decisions, you plan. And if you can plan together well in sort of chunks, maybe once a quarter, you can run fast when you're sort of separated from each other.
Right.
So I think it has a very powerful impact on your ability to deliver results. In thinking about it, very appropriate that I'm here with Coda because I do love docs and I use a lot and I create a lot of guides. I have a career conversations guide. I have the offsite planning toolkit, which I think we're going to talk about, working with Claire Doc. But I found that you can't scale just explaining to people, this is the framework I use. It's more scalable to say, here's the best I've got. And I invite people to edit it and make it better.
All right.
Ready? Oh, time to make a doc. Wow, you're serious.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get organized.
Okay, actually, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through your current doc.
Okay.
And maybe just give us a little bit of a...
Yeah, so we wrote this toolkit because a lot of people wanted to kind of replicate the way that I ran offsites. And so it has a couple components. One is more logistics and planning, because there's actually, you got to put in the work to plan a good offsite. The second part of it is thinking about structuring your agenda and thinking of, am I going to do some get to know you exercises? What are my objectives? And pre-work, any pre-work or templates that you need people to fill out. And then the third part of it is really for facilitators. So if you're going to be the person running the offsite, you have a whole set of responsibilities and ways that you're going to want to plan the day and handle the day.
So we'll break this doc into a couple different parts.
Yeah.
And you think about, I think of this like write the table of contents first. And for now, I was just going to start with plan and run. Mm-hmm. You want to pick some icons for these things.
For the plan and run?
Yeah, just the section underneath it, Picking icons is always one of the fun parts. In the meantime, I'll paste in some of the stuff from your doc. Like when I read it, I found like there were kind of two different ideas here. Yeah. So I thought of this as which type of offsite.
Yep.
And I think that's like, is it task focused? Is it team focused? And then this is assess where your team is.
Yeah.
And your sort of main point here is don't misassess.
I think some people think of it as, let's take a few hours and go through each other's goals and look at the metrics and see how we're doing. And I think of it much more as a combination of team building and bonding.
Getting to know you.
Okay, so this is Offsite Planning Handbook. What is an offsite? Why do an offsite? Which type of offsite? Assess where your team is. I think that's pretty good.
That's good.
I've just been chosen to facilitate a session. Now what? All right, so I'm going to copy this over and then we'll iterate on it. Okay. And I'm just going to take all of it. So this is like the same thing as a checklist, but now you can kind of work your way through and check these things on and off.
Great.
Yeah, so that's like a little starting point for went from being a list in the doc to something we can actually work through.
Yeah. Just say it's one day.
Mm-hmm.
The cadence of that day and the sort of emotional rhythm of it is pretty critical to having the best outcome. At the beginning, you do a check-in. I do a little longer. I usually do, how are you doing? And it's a chance for people to also say, look, I've got a bad headache, or, my kid's sick, or just like so that people know where you are in space and time. And then I say, what's your objective for today? And usually people are sharper and more present in the morning. So depending on what stage your team is in, you're going to devote more or less time to the getting to know each other, working together, deciding. So then you decide, well, how important right now? If my team is still forming, you're probably spending like the whole morning doing forming stuff. Like, let's get to know each other, let's learn about each other's work styles, let's set some team norms, which is a form of decision making.
Right.
Then you give people a chance to have lunch and socialize, and then you say, okay, now we got like, what are the most key strategic decisions in front of this team right now?
Right.
Let's practice as a team. You don't like say that, but you essentially take a meaty topic, but you have to have it be kind of a controversial and high energy enough topic that people stay with you after lunch. And then I think the ending is powerful. One, you do a wrap. I always do a wrap up of, you have a parking lot, right? So if topics come up that you're not going to cover, you put them in the parking lot. And then you have actions that you capture throughout the day. And I always end, because it gives people momentum, with, all right, let's disposition the parking lot and make sure people feel heard, and then we're going to do something with that information. Let's assign the actions, put due dates, put names on them so people know work is actually happening coming out of this. And then let's do a checkout. We put everyone back in a more reflective mood about what they, like, and depending on how much time you want to allocate, it could be a 1-word or 3-word checkout, or it could be a, why don't we all reflect on what was the best thing that happened today? What was the thing you're still left thinking or worried about?
Right.
What do you hope everyone knows about you now? Like you pick a set of probing questions that help the group like kind of introspect at the end, and then you want to do something like a dinner, right, or a social, or ideally.
Yeah. So
I've been accused of never
putting in breaks. Yeah.
I think that a good facilitator can adjust. So if you had this, you'd be like, all right, let me sum this and see if I'm in trouble.
Right.
Because it turned out the first session ran long, but it was great. So I let it run long.
Right.
What am I going to do?
So now, like this, if this was a standing agenda,
this
would
would
be
an hour.
Right. This would be 7.5 hours if this was like.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's perfect.
Cool. And then we could do a. What do you think, Evan? Should I build out a little start time thing? Are you just following along on the doc? Yeah. Skip it. Yeah. Okay.
We already have the link. Oh, but this would be like.
I could do a little calculator.
Make your agenda.
We can cut if not, but I'll why don't I add it?
Well, I can see how this becomes a little addictive.
Yeah. So this is like, go find me the thing where.
Certainly more scalable than copying over my old offsite docs.
I go in and I say, actually, let's start at, instead of 9, let's start at.
Ooh,
9,
I really like that.
9:30, and like everything just gets.
Oh gosh.
Right.
Human toil reduction is high.
Yeah. So okay. Let's cut lunch down. You see all the time change and so on. All right. We'll decide if we include that in the video or not.
And you this on your phone, right? You're sitting there going, uh-oh.
Right. Well, now you get a sense of like, this is like start and end, and like, am I behind? How far behind am I?
Do you guys do check in and check out?
All the time.
Yeah, they're awesome.
It's very common. We do this thing. It's in like all my docs. Is like it's called a sentiment tracker.
Yeah.
And the one I often do it in docs, partially because it's it works well with like remote teams and so on, which is maybe less appropriate for offsite, but like for my staff meeting, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So the basic idea is everybody comes in and you
where they're at.
And it's where you're at, and what we do is we hide everyone else.
Yeah, I like that.
And so now it's you can go add your own if you like, and you can. So I can say, this is going great, or going to be great. I guess we're checking in, and you can add yours. And you can't see mine, and then and then I click this. I often make people like go through it and say it, so that it's then
you get the personal connection.
Right, exactly. For now, what I'll do just to keep this easy, I'm just going to do the exact same thing in checkout. And so I'm just going to copy this over to checkout and do it again.
Right.
Cool. So we have a check-in, check-out. We have a session. One last thing we thought would be fun. I thought it would be fun to do one of your icebreakers.
Yeah.
And so there's a bunch of them in here. I thought they were pretty awesome. The one I thought would be most fun is this photo sharing one. So just maybe tell people how does this icebreaker usually work?
Yeah, I mean, generally, it's a great way to get people to know each other by sharing some personal visual, right? So what are the most important things in your life? And go show 1 or 2 photos. And sometimes we ask people to make a collage, like make a collage of a collection of photos that, like, pick 5 photos that express who you are.
Okay.
Right? And so I really love the idea of making this easier for people's phones, because the pain is then they have to do pre-work usually.
Right, they have to bring it.
They have to bring it. They have to make the slide. It's usually in the pre-work template.
Right.
But you can do it live.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
I'll add another thing that is, I'll call it a reveal. And we'll basically, I'll make a little checkbox here and say revealed owner. And basically I'll say if reveal equals true, then show created by, otherwise show quotes. And all that's going to do is like when I click this, it'll show who the owner is.
Yep.
And I'll make it a person column. So we'll see person, and then I'll hide this. You got the right one?
Yes. I think
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, that one.
Got it.
Yours are in?
I'm in.
Okay. And I think mine are in as
I
well.
like the mobile interface.
All right.
Awesome.
And all right, so I'm gonna hide this. I'm gonna get rid of this filter.
You're like exceeding expectations.
Oh,
man.
I
You did
picked three.
multiple. I only did one.
And so the game here is pretty simple. There's only two of us, so it's kind of easy. But you go and you look at the picture. What that gives context on this picture?
Well, the context about me is that's my son and a giant zucchini that I neglected that got too big in my garden, and I used my dachshund
no
for
such thing
scale. Look at that zucchini's the same size as a dog.
No such thing as too big a zucchini. And this one is, these are my daughters. These are my daughters being silly.
They
And
were
this
so
is
little.
this is what they look like now, doing their robotics competition. So what do you think of the duck?
I think one is it has a lot more scale to it in that right now people are just copying, pasting old offsites and then adapting them, and in this way we're giving them the sort of units and widgets to play with. It's going to make people a lot more efficient, and also probably better because you get rooted in what happened last time,
Right.
instead of recreating. But I really liked how a few of these exercises made it sort of more efficient and inclusive for people to do it together.
Right.
I do think you're right that you need to still have a human element. Like, let's talk through the photos. Let's talk through our check-in.
Right.
But it makes it much more like a group activity instead of the facilitator pushing,
Right.
which I really like. I think that people underestimate, quite frankly, how important it is to get a group together, get on the same page, get to know each other, and make a plan jointly. And I think you know this if you're a leader, which is people have to feel like the plan is theirs.
Right.
It has to be internalized in a way, and if you don't co-create it, you're just not as powerful as a team.